Hi there and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's dive into today's top stories. Arsenal in talks to increase £120,000 a week star's wages to make him feel incentivized and valued. Arsenal are reportedly in talks with Ben White over a new contract at the Emirates Stadium, and Ben Jacobs, writing on GiveMeSport, believes this will help the Gunners defender feel more incentivized and valued. Jacobs has spoken about how the wage bump that White is in line for will be consistent with his performances and value to the Arsenal project. The Daily Mail recently reported that the Gunners have opened formal talks with the England international over a new contract at N5. Arsenal apparently want to conclude talks over an improved deal as quickly as possible in an effort to secure the future of their key defender. The 25-year-old reportedly earns in the region of £120,000 a week at present, but is in line for a significant pay increase. White's current deal still has 3 years to run, but Jacobs believes that it's not just about the length of the contract, but about the squad dynamic. He said, "Contracts are not just about length, they are also about making players feel incentivized and valued. Because Arsenal have renewed so many names, and each of those renewals has come with a huge bump, everybody who is important to the project that hasn't had a wage increase sees the club are spending and increasing their wage bill, and is well aware that a lot of these new signings have come in on big money as well. It's just important for Arsenal's chemistry and squad dynamic that some of their top performers and most valued names aren't left out in being rewarded. I think that's going to be the case with White, and Arsenal will want to move to tie him down for a bit longer, but also to make sure that wage bump is consistent with the performances that he's put in and the value that he's deemed to have to the Arsenal project in the long term. This is honestly a good strategy for Arsenal to employ as the squad grows in quality and expectations rise. It's important to ensure that squad harmony remains intact and keeps prospering. At the highest levels of football, there can potentially be high disparity in wages within the same club, which can cause issues. The Gunners have definitely had their fair share of dressing room discord over the years, so it's good to see that the board is taking steps to ensure they can keep building on their good work so far. Pundit says Arsenal have a player who is even better than Martin Odegaard. Arsenal have some truly exceptional players on their books right now. The likes of Martin Odegaard, Gabriel, Martinelli, and William Saliba all have to be considered in that world-class category these days, but the jewel in their crown is undoubtedly Bukayo Saka, a homegrown star who has turned out to be one of the best players in the world. Every team in Europe probably wishes they could produce a player like Saka. Saka is vitally important to Arsenal, and sadly, it looks like he could miss this weekend's game against Manchester City with injury. Speaking on the Premier League All Access podcast, Scott Minto has been discussing Saka's injury, and he says that the winger is irreplaceable, claiming that he is actually Arsenal's best player ahead of the likes of Odegaard and Martinelli. Minto shared his view on Saka and his injury. He said, "I think when someone is that good, there is no alternative, like with Kevin De Bruyne and like Rodri. You want players to slip into that position, but they won't do the same job. I think Saka is that good. It's a testament to the youngster. He's been Arsenal's best player over the last 3 or 4 seasons. I understand the reliance to a point. I like Arteta and I like what he represents, but there has to be a point where you rest this guy." If ever there was a time that Arsenal didn't want Saka to be picking up an injury, this is it. As Mento says, Saka is the Gunners' best and perhaps most important player, and potentially losing him ahead of this crunch clash against Man City this weekend is a disaster. The Gunners will need to be at their very best if they are to beat City on Sunday, and it will be an uphill task if they don't have Saka available for selection. Finger crossed, Saka manages to beat the odds and is able to feature against the Premier League champions this weekend. Mikel Arteta told to give 26-year-old Arsenal man a chance to play in midfield for the first time. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta has been told to give Zinchenko a chance to play in midfield going forward. Speaking on the Handbrake of podcast, Pundit Adrian Clark was discussing the Ukrainian international. The 26-year-old didn't have his best match against Lens, getting caught out for the French side's second goal. Zinchenko is a unique player in the Arsenal squad right now. No other player in the team is capable of inverting from left back to play in the center of the pitch. It makes him incredibly important to Mikel Arteta's system, but can leave him exposed in defensive situations. He was immediately substituted when Arsenal went 2-1 down, with Ben White brought on in his place. Clark has now suggested that Arteta should instead play Zinchenko in midfield rather than bringing him off when Arsenal are chasing a match. Incredibly, despite ending up alongside Declan Rice in the middle of the pitch a lot, Zinchenko has started every match while at Arsenal at left back, removing that extra defensive responsibility and playing him in Kai Havertz's role as he does for Ukraine could get the best out of him. Speaking about the 26-year-old, Clark said, "In those situations where Mikel Arteta doesn't feel that Zinchenko is offering enough defensively, rather than taking him off, I'd rather put him into that left side number 8 role and keep him on. He's got that progressive pass in him. He is an unlocker of defenses rather than always take him off when he is struggling defensively. Could we then use him just in a further forward position as that left-sided number 8? The bottom line is he is the one that's more likely to play that killer pass in the final 15-20 minutes of a game than anyone else. It's just an idea to throw out there." Zinchenko has struggled to put a long run of games together for Arsenal due to injury problems, and even on a Tuesday, he looked tired. Loaning out Kieran Tierney has left Arsenal short of one option they could use if Arteta were to move Zinchenko into midfield. Pundit says he can genuinely see £45 million Man City player signing for Arsenal. Calvin Phillips isn't having the best of times at Manchester City right now. The England international is barely getting a game for Pep Guardiola's side, and when he does play these days, he looks like a bag of nerves. The former Leeds midfielder needs a change of scenery, and speaking on ESPN, my colleague has been discussing the idea of Phillips ultimately heading to Arsenal. Phillips has, of course, played his best football alongside Declan Rice for England, and Mikel stated that the idea of reuniting these two at club level could make a lot of sense. The ESPN journalist spoke about the idea of the £45 million man heading to the Emirates. He said, "Possible. I mean, yeah, it's possible if they play together, Rice and Phillips. I wouldn't say it's a vote of no confidence in Kai Havertz if he is going to be there, but Odegaard and Rice pick themselves. If we look at Phillips, he is not a holding midfielder, even though he has had to play there quite often. I can see it. Mikel Arteta comes from Man City, and we have seen the players move to Arsenal in the past. He knows him, I suppose, even though he wasn't there at the time. I can see it. I can see why Calvin Phillips would want to go there. A certain amount of risk because of injuries, and we haven't seen a very good Calvin Phillips since he was at Leeds at the beginning under Marcelo Bielsa. It's a better move for Phillips and more risk for Arsenal, I suppose. If Manchester City are putting Phillips on the market at some point, then a move to Arsenal could make a lot of sense for the Yorkshire Pirlo. As we know, he loves playing alongside Declan Rice. While Mikel Arteta has a tendency to sign players who have worked under Pep Guardiola in the past, Phillips can be a quality player under the right circumstances, and perhaps a move to the Emirates could be just what the doctor ordered. Whether or not City would sell to Arsenal is another question, but in our view, this is a move that could make a lot of sense. Arsenal scouts were at Old Trafford this week to watch amazing 23-year-old player. Arsenal's scouts were reportedly in attendance at Old Trafford this week to watch Galatasaray defender Sacha Bowie in action against Manchester United. The Gunners were heavily linked with a move to sign the 23-year-old Frenchman in the summer transfer window, but no move materialized in the end. However, Turkish football now claims that Arsenal are still interested. Arsenal have barely made any mistakes with their recruitment over the last 2.5 years. Mikel Arteta and Edu have formed a great partnership, and almost every signing they have made since 2021 has proved to be a good one. The Gunners were on the market for a new defender in the summer. A move for Galatasaray right back Sacha Bowie looked a real possibility, but Arsenal opted for Jurriën Timber instead. The Dutchman is a fantastic player, but sadly for him, he suffered a long-term injury on his Premier League debut against Nottingham Forest in August. Timber won't be back in action until the final few months of the campaign, and Turkish football now claim that Arsenal are interested in signing Bowie. It has been revealed that Arsenal's scouts have watched Bowie in action in the Champions League this season. He scored against Copenhagen on the opening day before starring against Manchester United in a 3-2 win at Old Trafford earlier this week. Arsenal scout reportedly saw him there, and the report claims he will be sold if a good offer comes in for him in the January transfer window. Losing Jurriën Timber was a massive blow for Arsenal. The versatile Dutchman can play anywhere across the back four, and even in central midfield, he would have given Arteta plenty of options, but the Gunners' boss will have to do without him for months now. Arsenal still have Ben White and Takehiro Tomiyasu at right back, while Thomas Partey has also been used there. They also have young Raoul Walters in the academy, who is a huge talent. As amazing as Sacha Bowie is, Arsenal don't need him in January. Arsenal now eyeing £50 million forward, who Arsene Wenger wanted in 2017. Arsenal have rekindled their interest in Wolves star Pedro Neto, according to Alex Crook. The journalist, writing on TalkSport, claims the Gunners are back on the trail of the 23-year-old. Arsenal's Premier League rivals would be reluctant to lose Neto, acknowledged Crook. However, their ongoing financial fair play issues mean a sizable transfer offer would put that resolve to the test. However, Gary O'Neill is apparently aware that if Neto can maintain form and stay fully fit, it's inevitable bigger clubs will come calling. Arsenal are currently sweating over the fitness of Bukayo Saka, who picked up a knock earlier this week. Even if the 22-year-old returns to action quickly, the Gunners will be eager to lighten his workload in the coming months. As a result, it looks as though Arsenal have decided to look at Neto as cover and competition for Saka. The Portuguese ace has got off to a flyer this season with 1 goal and 4 assists in 7 Premier League outings. Neto has already clocked up 118 appearances for his club, registering 12 goals and 17 assists. He has also won 4 Portugal caps. Several years ago, Football Talent Scout compared him to Mohamed Salah, and he is certainly on the right track to become a star just like the Liverpool ace. Interestingly, Arsene Wenger reportedly wanted to sign Neto for Arsenal when he was still an up-and-coming talent. The Mirror reported in 2017 that the legendary Gunners boss had his eyes on the player when he was still at Praga. 2 years later, Wolves signed him after a stint at Lazio, and he has gone on to become an established star in the top flight. In terms of price tag, there were reports last year claiming Wolves wanted around £50 million for Neto, Amid the Saka injury scare, Arsenal definitely need to bolster their ranks to lessen his workload, and Neto would be a great shoot for the club. However, would Wolves sell him mid-season when things haven't been going that well for them early on in the campaign, even amid the alleged FFP issues? Admittedly, it's still very early in the season, but they are currently 15th, 3 points above the bottom three with 4 losses from 7. Arsenal attacker could leave the club if Premier League rival is signed. The January transfer window could see one in, one out for Arsenal. That's according to a recent report from Football Insider, who claims the Gunners have Wolverhampton Wanderers' Pedro Neto on their mid-season radar. Also, the Londoners are unlikely to be the only club interested in the informed winger. The fact the Portugal international has ambitions of moving to a side competing for silverware, Arsenal will fancy their chances of winning the race for his signature. However, while Neto's future remains uncertain, so does Emil Smith-Rowe's. The young attacker has struggled for playing time in recent seasons. Gabriel Martinelli and Leandro Trossard are both well ahead of the Englishman, and despite recent injuries nudging him higher up the list, the 23-year-old has still found minutes hard to come by. Consequently, even though he is thought to be happy at the Emirates, there is a genuine concern over his lack of playing time, and that, according to these latest reports, could prompt both him and the club to work on a January transfer. Although clubs have yet to be credited with having an interest in the Gunners' number 10, it's expected that the most serious and genuine approaches could come from sides in the Premier League. As we wrap up today's Arsenal news, remember to stay tuned for daily updates right here on the channel. Don't miss out on the latest updates, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you found this information valuable. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.